Welcome everyone, I hope you're having a very wonderful day, and welcome to my guide for red deer for Emerald Coast. Before we begin, I want to mention quickly how today's guide is going to work. So it's going to be broken down into 3 sections. Our first section will be covering the hotspots and locations of these guys, and then we're going to move on to weapon recommendations, where I'll recommend 5 of my favorite weapons to hunt these guys with. And then we're going to end today's video with the animal profile, which will be custom map, time zones, ammo chart, and more. Everything you need to make your hunting life 10 times easier. So let's get right into today's video by quickly going over red deer drinking times. These guys drink between 6 to 10, and thank goodness, because there's quite a few night animals on this map, so having these guys out here like this is pretty nice and fun. And honestly, I think this is the best map other than Thehunter when it comes to red deer hunting, because a lot of these lakes are pretty much open and easy to access. I will say though, at least here on Emerald Coast, there is some lakes up in the northern section that do have some dense foliage. However, this map is really solid for me. As you guys can quickly see here, that I'm out on this lake and it is fairly open, and this is how it is for a majority of these lakes in all honesty, so I do appreciate that for this map. Now moving on, let's quickly go over where these guys don't reside as I explain a few hotspots along the way. So we're going to open up our map here, and I want to quickly cover the northern section of the map. Now I have 2 lakes here. We have the one next to this outpost where I've had no red deer interaction whatsoever, and then this one next to this lookout point. I've had no red deer there as well. And then above that, along this entire marsh section, I've had no red deer up there as well either. So at the end of today's video, you guys will see that this section is not marked at all. If you guys do have any, please let me down below so I can correct that later on when I add the picture to my Discord. And moving along over to the right hand side, no red deer reside along the coast here up onto the ocean whatsoever. However, down at the lower marsh section, they do reside along the mainland here that leads all the way to the center point of the further marshland. Now let's quickly go over down below and talk about the dry lands where the kangaroos and the feral goats like to reside. Now there's 3 lakes within this little section area that the red deer like to reside, so we're going to zoom in here. This is one of the first of the 3 lakes. Moving up north here, we have this one right here as well, and then moving all the way to the left side where this outpost is another lake where red deer like to reside. Now let's quickly go over a few hotspots. Now I have this lake here marked as a hotspot. Now I consider red deer hotspots as where there's more than like 2 zones, because a lot of the zones for this map, for me particularly, is pretty spread out. So I kind of try to figure out where to draw the line for a hotspot, and I found it to just be at least 2 zones per lake, and so that's where I've marked them all down. We had this one down here, which I don't know if it's a guaranteed hotspot or not, but I feel like these ones are going to be varied on everyone's map. And then I have these 2 here next to each other, which I marked as hotspots as well. And I've noticed up here on this river, it's a pretty popular hotspot for a majority of the animals that drink here. And I've marked this down for red deer. It's a pretty straight line. You'll have a few gaps in between your red deer spawns, but it's pretty much just a straight shot. I recommend to spawn at this outpost here and then just walk on the entire river. In all honesty, you're going to have so many red deer, it's ridiculous. And I think that's pretty much it other than the location we're at today. This is the hotspot that I will be showing you guys. Now there's 2 red deer locations here. We have one at the big lake here and one on the one to my left. But we're going to quickly pull our binoculars out and take a quick look. We have nothing spectacular here. We just have some level 6s and 4s, and I'm going to have to tend to them and try to get something bigger to spawn. And then on the other side, what's going on here, guys? Access deer? Excuse me. We're going to try to creep over and look at the other red deer location. Now, I wanted to mark 2 other locations I want to quickly discuss. I want to go over this one here. I wanted to mark this as a hot spot. However, I've only had 1 zone of red deer there and a few singles. And I want to mark this one as a hot spot as well, because I've seen in quite a few videos that these 2 locations are really good. So I've just have them marked down as yellow locations. So if you guys get quite a few there, just let me know as well, so I can try to make future corrections for the red deer guide. We're going to keep scooching over here. See if we can see these guys. I think this lake is considered a hotspot for me, just mostly because that you can have probably like maybe 2 groups, 3 groups at this lake, possibly, I would assume. And then you got this one over here, which can have probably just 1. I would assume 1. Oh, I hear them, but I don't see them. We're just going to stand up. Guys, are you here? I mean, I heard stuff. You guys heard stuff? Maybe they fled earlier. Maybe it's just those access deer, but we have another group of red deer that resides here. So I just want to make that a quick point. And I think that pretty much does it for this section. I don't think there's any more information I can add to it. on where these guys like to reside and where they don't, or any other tips that would be useful. So I'm going to head back to the lodge, and I will see you guys over at the weapon recommendation section. Alrighty folks, so here we are back at the outpost. Before we begin, I want to mention quickly 3 things. First things first is we're only going to be covering rifles, handguns, and shotguns. We'll not be covering bows because I'm not a bow expert, so I'll leave that to professionals. Secondly, these are just my personal recommendations and favorites. I always say go out there and explore and see what suits you and what you enjoy playing with. And then lastly, I'm going to be mentioning all the DLCs these weapons come from in case you want to pick them up for yourself. So let's get right into it. Now, for the rifle section here, I try to figure out what were the best rifles with the highest drop rate for these guys, or the quickest drop rate, because they kind of sit at a weird threshold, and they're kind of beefy, to be quite honest with you. So, like, I don't really like using 30-06 on them, or even the 308. To be quite honest, I want something that just immediately drops these guys. And so, at least for the first 2 rifles, it does a really solid job. And then the third one, it's okay, in all honesty. So let's get right into it with our first rifle today. The Malmer 7mm Magnum is my typical choice when it comes to hunting red deer. This thing does drop them relatively easily. You don't have to go far at all. But it's very solid. You have 3 rounds in there. You can play some alright follow-up shots with it. But I highly recommend picking it up when it comes to red deer hunting. And you can find it in the Hunter Power Pack DLC. Now, this rifle here honestly could be the best, in all honesty. The Model 1894. Now, the reason why I say this bad boy is the best is because the handgun ammo you get for it just obliterates these red deer. I've hunted so many red deer with this thing. It's just phenomenal, and it just drops them. If we go to handgun ammo, we're just going to go over here and look at it. Now, you do have to unlock this ammo, but once you get it, it's just going to change your world. The penetration is 70, and it will drop these red deer. So I recommend picking up this lever action and just using it. This thing is so good for red deer hunting. And honestly, it's hard to say between that and the 7mm which one is the top dog for when it comes to hunting red deer. But you can find this lever action in the Ambusher Pack DLC. Moving on to our third and final rifle today. Now, I know I talked a little bit of smack about the 308, but I do recommend it. It's not that bad when it comes to hunting red deer. You're going to have to take a few extra steps compared to the other 2 rifles, but you know, it gets the job done. And I recommend the Zarza 10 with the 5 rounds, so you can place, maybe get a little extra double tap into the red deer before it runs off. But I enjoy using the 308 every so often, but I prefer the other 2 rifles compared to this thing. But you can find this bad boy in the Modern Rifle Pack DLC. Moving on to handguns now. As I did mention, I mentioned the 4570 lever action, and obviously if you guys watch my channel, you know that I was going to mention the 4570 Jernberg Spear, which is the best pistol in this game. I will stand on that hill until they add a better pistol, but this thing, for a single shot, you can put a rifle scope on it, which gives it a better zoom compared to all the other pistols in the game, and it covers classes 4 through 9. It's just a very solid pistol to carry around with you, and you can find it in the High Caliber Weapon Pack DLC. Moving on to shotguns, there's only one shotgun I really thought of immediately when it came to red deer hunting, and that was the Strandberg 10 gauge with the 4 rounds in there. That semi-auto, beautiful shotgun that packs a mean punch. I recommend just putting a scope on it and just using the slugs. Don't even worry about buckshot, just use the slugs. I mean, pretty much at that point, just use a rifle, but if you really want to use a shotgun, use this and put slugs in it. You'll have a really solid time. I've used it a little bit for red deer hunting on Tia Aurora back before I restarted this account for this YouTube channel, but using 10 gauge slugs, pretty solid, really pretty solid. And you can find this bad boy in the High Caliber Weapon Pack DLC. Now, that pretty much does it for the weapon section, so I'm going to see you guys over at the animal profile in just a moment. And here we are, folks, at the end of today's video. Before I let you guys go, I'm going to do a quick animal profile breakdown. Starting on the left-hand side, we have all of our basic red deer information. We have our class, difficulty, silver, gold, diamond, threshold, range. We have our weight from least to greatest in kilograms in pounds. We have our fur types here in common, rare, very rare, and great one. Moving on to the center map, we pretty much covered all this information at the start of today's video. Moving on to the top right-hand corner, we have all of our time zones nice and organized for you. And then below that, we have that ammo chart for those full integrity kills. Now, that pretty much does it for today's video, folks. If you guys enjoyed and this helps, please drop a like. It really, really helps out that channel. With that out of the way, I hope you guys have a very wonderful day. Happy hunting, good luck, and I will see you guys in the next one.